At the beginning of every year, while the world celebrated with fireworks and resolutions, Elise retreated into a small, sunlit room at the back of her apartment, a quiet space adorned with plants, books, and the soft hum of the city beyond the window. Here, she made time for a ritual unlike any other. She would write a letter to her past self. Her first reflection letter was hesitant, scribbled in the margins of an old journal when she was just 20. That year, life felt uncertain, filled with tumultuous decisions, heartbreak, and a profound sense of waiting. Elise wrote to her 15-year-old self, the girl who felt lost in the stormy sea of adolescence. She wrote about the unexpected moments that shaped her, about the times she failed and learned to start again, about friendships that faded and those that became her anchor, and about the slow, steady realization that she could rely on herself even when every other certainty slipped away. The process felt therapeutic. Each word committed to paper became a thread, stitching together her past experiences with her current understanding. She realized, pen in hand, that she wasn't the same person she once was, nor would she ever be the same again. As the years passed, this ritual grew. Each January, Elise would choose a past version of herself, the anxious college student overwhelmed by choices, the young professional navigating her first job, the woman struggling to forgive herself for a mistake she still remembered. Before writing, she'd sit quietly, eyes closed, and invite memories to surface. She'd recall the feeling of raw insecurity as she began her first day at work, or the fluttering mixture of hope and fear before starting a new relationship. Then, she would reach across the distance of years with compassion, writing the words she most wished someone had spoken during those moments. In her letters, she told her past selves about the capacity to heal. She spoke about resilience masked in small acts of courage, getting out of bed on difficult mornings, daring to dream even after disappointments, and letting go of expectations that no longer fit. She wrote honestly about pain, the sting of rejection, the grief of things that didn't last. But always, she circled back to a message of reassurance. You are growing, even when you cannot see it. Year after year, Elise noticed something remarkable happening. With each reflection, wounds that once felt open and raw began to close. She no longer viewed old mistakes as chains, but as signposts on her journey. Even the heartbreaks that had seemed insurmountable softened in their memory, transformed by the passage of time and perspective. Of course, the letters were not just acts of comfort. They became a powerful record of her transformation. She could see, sentence by sentence, how her way of thinking had shifted, how certain fears had faded, and how new dreams had taken their place. There was the letter she wrote at 24, a year marked by intense self-doubt. Addressed to her 18-year-old self, Elise described the surprise of discovering strength in vulnerability, how sharing her struggles with others brought not embarrassment, but understanding. She wrote, "You will realize one day that asking for help is not a weakness. With every story you share, someone else finds the courage to do the same." At 28, after weathering heartbreak, she wrote to the hopeful woman she had been just 12 months before. The letter was soft, full of empathy. She acknowledged the pain without judgment, but also told her past self about the resilience that was growing quietly beneath the surface. "You will learn to find beauty in endings," she promised, "and to trust that emptiness always makes space for something new." Perhaps most transformative was the letter Elise wrote in her 30s. This time, she chose to address her 10-year-old self, a girl wide-eyed, full of questions, and painfully aware of feeling different. As she wrote, Elise allowed herself to feel the innocence and curiosity of childhood, the sense of possibility not yet burdened by fear. She wrote, "Hold on to wonder. Life will give you reasons to grow cautious, but never lose your sense of curiosity. It is your strongest ally through every change." Through these yearly letters, Elise learned that growth was not always linear. There were years of progress and periods of stagnation. times when old fears returned despite every effort to move on. But within each letter she observed a subtle transformation. Patience, where there had been restlessness, wisdom, where there had been confusion, compassion, where there had once been only criticism. In this ongoing dialogue with herself, Elise also made peace with the people she had been. It was tempting, in moments of regret or embarrassment, to wish away parts of her past. But the letters taught her otherwise. They showed her that every version of herself, no matter how unsure, flawed, or afraid, had contributed to who she was becoming. There was honor in honoring the journey. What Elise discovered, above all, was that self-reflection is an act of self-love. In reaching out to her past, she created a bridge between who she was, who she is, and who she might still become. With each letter, she granted her former selves the compassion that experience brings, and in turn, gave her present self the reminder that she was always evolving. She realized that growth often happens quietly in the most unexpected places, in the pause before a difficult decision, in the courage to say no, in the tenderness shown to herself after a setback. Over the years, Elise came to trust that there was no fixed destination, no moment when she would finally arrive. Life, she saw, was a mosaic made of countless small transformations, each one necessary and beautiful in its own way. Now, when Elise sits down each January, she does so with gratitude. She still writes with honesty and vulnerability, recognizing that a year from now she will look back once again, surprised by how much has changed. The practice is both grounding and liberating, a reminder that there is always more to learn, more to let go of, more to discover. Elise's story is a testament to the power of self-reflection. By writing to her past self, she learned to embrace her evolving identity as an endless journey. Each letter became an act of gentle encouragement, proof that healing and growth are ongoing, woven into the fabric of everyday living. And so she continues, year after year, not as a way of clinging to the past, but as a celebration of change. Because every person is always in motion, growing silently towards a truer version of themselves. In the mirror of her own words, Elise sees not just a record of who she was, but a promise of who she can still become. In the end, she understands. You're always evolving, sometimes in ways you can see, sometimes in ways you can only discover later. And that, perhaps, is the most beautiful lesson of all. Thank you for watching this episode of Mind Awakening TV. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an awakening moment. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and let's continue the conversation. Stay curious and keep expanding your mind.